there's a survey, I think about 2,000 people took part in this survey. I think it's from 2018. And it's really quite upsetting, and it shows that people would rather risk their life.
Wow.
Because their symptoms are so bad. They would rather try something and risk their life or their health because their symptoms are that bad. So that just goes to show how hideous, IBS can be. This podcast, Beyond Bathroom Blues, is our way to document the lessons we've learned on growing our business, Men's IBS Mastery, towards helping 1 million men. Our hope is you use the lessons and wisdom for your own journey, and maybe someday soon partner with us to achieve IBS Mastery and dominate in your personal and professional life. We hope you share and enjoy. Welcome back, guys, and today we're covering a really important topic. So the unseen obstacles that men face with IBS when trying to get symptom control, because there's loads of stuff out there with what to do, like recipes, avoid this food, don't do this, don't do that, journaling, all this kind of stuff, but they don't tell you what to avoid to keep you safe and from harm to effectively manage your symptoms.
Yeah, it's not just important. I mean, for me, it's like knowing you and working together with you as, obviously a dietitian. You don't know what you don't know. It's the classic saying, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't see the woods for the trees and all that stuff. But once you know this, you'll know it. You can't unknow it, as there's a saying for that, somewhere like a quote. There's so many self-proclaimed gurus out there. There's it's a huge chapter or several chapters in the book that I've written, IBS Inversion, goes on about this. And just to pull that curtain back, to protect men with IBS, and you're saying there, just to stack on it, there's such a dark side to it, hence the title of the podcast, that if you can not only can you get your hands burnt, and not only can you get fleeced, financially through your time, but it could cost you big time. It could cost you your health, which then, there's consequences to that. So not only are you trying to navigate through the IBS smokescreen and dial your symptoms in and get an amazing lifestyle where you haven't got these issues, but then imagine if you're, whilst you're trying to do that, you're getting all this misinformation that you don't know because you don't know what you don't know, and you're getting all this incorrect data, these supplements that could harm you or whatever else. It's going to push you further down the rabbit hole, and actually it'll leave you more frustrated, more overwhelmed, and as I said before, it could damage, as Jean said as well, it could damage your health. So it's massively important. Stick around to the end, because again, I've got bags of examples to share with you, and as Charlie Jean has, and we're going to help you with a bit of a roadmap, give you some tips to identify these issues, these self-proclaimed gurus, and we're going to pull that curtain back for you to protect you, so that hopefully you can get success more quickly and save yourself, your health, your wealth, and your time.
But a lot of people, they don't really think about their health, and there's a survey, I think about 2,000 people took part in this survey, I think it's from 2018, and it's really quite upsetting, and it shows that people would rather risk their life.
Wow. Because
their symptoms are so bad. They would rather try something and risk their life or their health because their symptoms are that bad. So that just goes to show how hideous, IBS can be. And clearly we don't want that for you. We don't want you to have to take these risks. But sometimes, like Glenn says, you don't know what you don't know. And you can be following, these influencers or, these health influencers. And, they've got millions of followers, and because they've got loads of followers, you think, oh yeah, they'll know their stuff. And then they, they're talking confidently and they sound like they know their stuff. Maybe they've got IBS, or maybe they know someone who's got IBS. So then they are then talking and you can resonate and you're thinking, oh yeah, that sounds right. So then you start following what they say, but actually they've got no qualifications and they've got no right basically to, be talking about all this stuff and telling you this stuff. And that could be causing you more harm than good.
It's the classic as well. I mean, there's loads of different scenarios, but to put a different spin on it, I read once that, you wouldn't go and seek money advice off someone that's in debt. You wouldn't go and try and learn about wealth and investing, off somebody that's authored a book, for example, that's not even wealthy themselves and they don't invest themselves. And it's more than that, though, with IBS. Clearly, it's more than that, because we're not just talking about money and business. We're talking about the health, the physical being. And like I said, I remember that time without mentioning any names, obviously, because bad karma, and it's not the done thing. It was about 3 years ago, and somebody reached out to me and tried connecting with me on Facebook at the time. On Facebook, sent me some messages, which was really nice. So I got chatting, as I always do. I always chat to people. It's nice to meet somebody. And I then quickly found out that a quote-unquote IBS guru that helps women with IBS, and they were chatting to me saying, I've noticed that you work in the field of IBS. So I don't know the angle because I didn't get to that point. But as I was chatting to her, and I obviously then did obviously as you do, humans are nosy, we then check out the person, what they do. And I was like looking at the website, thinking, hang on a minute, there's no qualifications on there. Not that everybody's got them on there, but there's no qualifications. And then when I read the about page, like the about me, it was, I've got IBS, I was diagnosed at 15 or whatever. 10 years after that, I've been around the world and I've gathered all this information, I've tried all this different stuff, and I've got results. Well done you, bravo, that is fantastic. But, and here we go, without zero, never been to university, college or anything, like no qualifications, so just the lived experience.
No correct, relevant background.
Yeah, I now help, I think it was women, a target audience. I help women with IBS and gut conditions, any other IBD as well. So IBD/IBS, well, they're both different.
Massively different.
And anyway, with that, and I was like, okay, so I was chatting to this person again. I said, I'm just looking at your I'm because she sent me the link actually. I'm just curious, what's your qualifications, what's your background? And I am going to quote what she said, is like, I've basically been through this myself, and I've cobbled a course together and I sell it online to people to get them the outcome. I was like, okay, it's dangerous, isn't it?
More like, but does she get the outcome or not? And also, I've had so many people coming to me, like when I was working in the NHS and since, where they've gone to see someone in good faith and thinking, this person is going to help me with my IBS and other conditions. And they've ended up with extra symptoms on top, and their IBS symptoms getting worse. So I remember Bill, he'd been to this holistic nutritionist, and they had basically given him all these supplements. Some of the supplements I couldn't even read. Doctor didn't even know what they were. And they were basically just given Bill all this stuff to take. They hadn't even checked that he'd got a confirmed medical diagnosis of IBS. So for all they knew, it wasn't even IBS. And if it was something else, they are delaying him getting a correct diagnosis and then the correct help and treatment that might be necessary. Because it could have been celiac disease, it could have been bowel cancer, it could have been a whole host of different conditions. And he had all these shakes and sweating, and he couldn't think straight, and he had numb fingers and feet. He was a mess. And then when we stripped everything out and just went back to the drawing board, we then came up with a plan together, and basically all those horrible other symptoms all went, and actually his IBS had massively improved as well. But it just goes to show that it's going to the right people for the help. I get that you don't always know who is the best person to go to, but just going off someone and thinking, oh yeah, they've got IBS, they'll know what to do. That isn't a good tactic with how to pick the right person to, get your advice and support from. Yeah,
massively. I mean, just to stack on that and just to hopefully put a different spin on it, and we were chatting about this earlier when we were chatting about, this podcast, and we came up with that. I think we did a blog on it once as well about, definitely did a story where if you had nerve damage or you had a problem, let's say a sporting injury, a really bad sporting injury on your left arm, and you went to the doctors, obviously the first point, everybody knows you go to the doctors. You got an injury or a bad illness, we all go to the doctor.
Or Dr. Google.
Yeah, no, yeah. Don't go on Dr. Google, no. Man. You end up with blooming bowel cancer and all sorts just from an arm injury.
Yeah, it's really... not do it.
So you go for an arm injury. The doctor says to you, you've got this nerve damage or some muscular damage. You're going to need surgery. We're going to need to send you to an arm specialist. Maybe some scans first, some whatever, ultrasound. That then confirms you need surgery. You're going to follow that advice. Then, unless you're crazy and you want your arm to fall off or not work properly, more often than not, people are going to follow that advice. They're then going to go to a surgeon that specialises in the thing that you need to be repaired on your arm. And it's like, that makes, sense. That's obvious. And then, what you don't do is you don't go to the doctor and say, right, doctor, I've got this, my arm's really, really hurting. And he checks it all and says, yeah, you need surgery. But hang on a minute, I'm just going to go on Facebook. I'm in a few Facebook groups with just everyone, really. I'm going to ask them their opinion. You'd be like, whoa, hang on a minute, what are you doing? You're a doctor, you're meant to know, I want the outcome, I want to be safe, I don't want to risk my arm from falling off or getting amputated, I want to save my arm, it's really badly injured. You're then going to go to the surgeon, you wouldn't expect him to start I wonder what to do next. Anaesthetist, what are we doing with this arm? Or, asking around and you're going to go to the person, the professional, In that case, it's the surgeon. Maybe he's an arm specialist. He only operates on nerve damage. And he will hopefully get you the outcome. Afterwards, it's rehab, maybe some physiotherapy. And then you're back in. You clearly got to build it back up slowly. And your arm is hopefully going to get back to full strength. What we don't do, more of this, like you said, Dr. Google, is join Facebook groups. This is what people are doing with IBS, obviously. Joining Facebook groups.
Several.
Asking like people that are still in suffering, what are you doing for your IBS? What are you doing for diarrhea? What are you doing for bloating? How do you reduce this and that?
And it's shocking. People are recommending medications to each other. Bearing in mind, they're not a pharmacist, they're not a doctor, they're nothing. They're just saying, I take X, Y, and Z medications. Oh, you should try it. My symptoms are improved. But they don't even know anything about that person that they're recommending that or those medications. And it's shocking. I find it really, really worrying that, people are recommending like medications, even over the counter medications that you can go and buy yourself. There's still risks involved. It's shocking.
I mean, it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. Commiseration likes commiseration, and it is good for a lot of people to vent and to get in these Facebook groups. Like, for example, we've got in our Facebook group that, the private space, IBS in men, is we get men in there venting from time to time, but it's more.
It's a safe space, and it's nice to to release and vent off and your frustrations and stuff. So it's good for men in our group to do that, and we encourage that. But also, obviously, being supportive and, sharing their wins, and we, help and share information, correct information and evidence-based, whereas it's just a free-for-all. And it's just like, no wonder people have been in these groups for years and years, and they're not any better. And some of them are even worse because they're just following advice, copying others.
I don't know where it's gone wrong. The health industry's a mess anyway, whether it's in fitness or what we're doing, where it's quite linear for most people, for like 95% of people that, like we said before, and I touched on, you've got a health condition or an injury, a bad injury, you go to your doctor. We all get that. We do it from being children. So then after the doctor, we take the advice from that doctor. They've got the frame. They talk to us. They say, look, this is what's going to happen. These are the consequences if you don't sort it out. I recommend surgery or whatever. But
obviously it's down to the person's choice as well. But they'll make an informed decision based on what the doctor has told them.
Then the person then goes to the surgeon, and then you follow that until you get the outcome, hopefully.
The process.
You follow the process. But yet we've got lost along the weeds a lot, really, when you think about IBS, even IBD, all these other health conditions, gut conditions. People then seem to fall off that process and think, well, I don't need to follow that process anymore. I can go solo, I can read a few books, I can do this, I can go in these Facebook groups, and I'm going to get the outcome. But the truth is, you're not going to get the outcome. And I know that because I've been in the trenches with this for nearly a decade, until obviously I met you and then realised what I needed to do. And that's the scary part of it is, and it gets darker than that, as I'm sure you touched on with Bill, that you can really create a mess with your health. Which will push you further down. It'll push you, make you more frustrated, more lost in what you're doing. And then what happens is you then have these beliefs that are formed that when the truth does come along, you don't believe it. It's like, no, that's not right.
People just giving out advice and they don't know your full situation. When I say your full situation, I don't mean like, where you live and what you do day to day, but I mean like your medical situation, what medications you're on, what your health is like, how active you are, what you eat, if you've got any allergies, intolerances, all this kind of stuff, all needs to be factored in for the advice to be appropriate for you and suitable and not cause you harm. So super important. So if you are thinking about joining Facebook groups, knowing the admins of the group are suitably qualified, whether they're a doctor or a dietitian. But if they're just like some random Joe on the street, then I wouldn't be probably joining that group. Yeah. Apart from camaraderie and venting and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And listen, if you've got any questions on this podcast, episode 1, and even any of the future ones, feel free to pop over into Facebook, search for IBS in Men, answer the questions, agree to the rules. We'll welcome you in. And if you've got any questions or queries on these podcasts or any of the other content that we've got out there, we are all over social media, then please, that is the space to ask us. You're going to get direct access to Charlie Jean and myself, where you can ask those questions and queries and we can answer you straight away, so that you're not sort of lost in the weeds with everything.
We are quite picky in a sense with who we let into our group, because we don't want to let in knowingly people that we feel might put the guys in our group at risk. So we don't want to be letting in these people, because you've probably seen it as well yourself. These people that are promoting, like, I don't know, snake oil, and there's like, it's funny, you saw this person, there's like doctor and then some doctor whoever, and they're this cure for everything. It's like HIV, IBS, syphilis, a whole host of different conditions. And then Glenn clicked on the picture, and there was like, they just look like dirty bottles of, like, I don't know, pop bottles that had the label taken off, and there's just like dirty water in there. And they're selling this stuff, and they go around these groups and stuff. So we are picky with who we let in, because we don't want people like that, you know, coming into the group and then pitching to you and, I don't know, risking, you know.
Our group is small for that reason. I think there's, as of today, there's 65, 66 guys in there or whatever, and it's for that reason. I mean, hundreds apply to join. Either don't fill out the questions, they don't agree to the rules, or it ends up that they're just trying to pitch
dodgy profiles.
Yeah, sell this, sell that supplement, so they don't come in. Anyway, enough on that. This is not to promote the group, but that is just as an example. If you are going to join a Facebook group, just to sort of
Facebook groups can be a hot pot.
Just to seal the lid on the Facebook group aspect, so that you are armed and dangerous when you're out there trying to join these groups. And if you're in them already, go ahead. The simplest thing to do really is check the moderators and the admins. They can basically walk the talk. They are who they are. Do a deep dive on them. You know, check their website if they've got one. If they haven't, alarm bells. You know, if they haven't got any credentials, you know, qualifications and experience in that thing, alarm bells. If you're after advice around your symptoms, if you're just in there just as a community to vent off and like I said before, commiseration likes commiseration, or to lift others up, then that's great, you know, no problem at all. But just be aware of you are listening to the information from. So that's the Facebook group aspect. It's the same on other social media platforms as well, whether that's you watching TikTok videos, YouTube shorts and videos as well. So just check. And you know, the final one on that, because it's relevant, is books. If you are, there's tons of books out there. There's some really good books on the market for IBS, but there's some really bad ones as well. As with anything, is do your due diligence on the author. Make sure the author comes from that background. They are qualified, or they work with somebody that's qualified if it's a co-authored book like mine is, and you know that they have got that. So it's to protect yourself, to protect your health, and that hope, you know, with that you're going to get a better outcome. Just to finish off on there, then obviously we've covered quite a bit of ground today. We want to obviously keep it as simple as possible without going too deep, and to get you the outcome. So we've mentioned tons of stuff about groups and books, and I guess really is, how do you spot a fake guru, somebody that we've said, it's all well and good saying, right, Charlie G and Glenn, I get that I need to be checking for people that are qualified. Here in the UK, obviously, like Charlie Jean, it's a registered clinical dietitian, and
your medical doctor.
Medical doctor first point of call. Gastro.
Yeah, gastroenterologist. Yeah. Or in some countries they know gastrointestinal doctors, but it's the same thing. And then maybe if you need mental health support, suffer with depression or stress, and then you need a little bit extra help, you know, in the emotional side, then your doctor can refer you to a psychologist. That'll help you protect that aspect as well.
100%. I mean, it's like anything in the world, really. We always hear that term bashed around, if you're in business anyway, and kind of the entrepreneurial world, that it's the top 1%, or it's the top 7% now, actually, I think Jem and I were saying. So the top 7%, or 7% of the population are entrepreneurs, whatever. So if you're in that top percent, it's about thinking different. And there's a famous quote, I don't know who said it, but if you do what everyone else does, you're going to get everyone else's results. As you probably know, you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, you know, tons of people in Facebook are just floating around and not really getting the outcome, and they're just getting maybe a little bit of relief, maybe, you know, every now and again, which, if that's what you're after, then fine. You know, no one can judge you, or
it's your choice.
It's your choice. If you're happy just to take a few supplements and that's giving you a little bit of symptom relief each day, each week, and you're happy with that, then cool. But this is really aimed at, you know, if you listen to this and you think, no, I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with a little bit of symptom relief every now and again, Glenn.
And I don't want to risk my health.
Yeah, I want to not risk my health, and I want to get the outcome. I want to dial this in as quickly and safely as possible so I can live life on my terms. Now, if that's the case, then obviously you need to think slightly different than everybody else that are in these Facebook groups that are online.
You're just trying to DIY it.
Yeah, because obviously they're just getting average results. And if
any.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to be above that, if you want to be, you know, a cut above the rest, as you will, and you need to think differently. And the good news is it is pretty straightforward, really, in that you've, like Charlie Jean said, you've been to the doctors, you've got the diagnosis for IBS. Acceptance is a big one, and we're going to cover that in another podcast and beliefs. But you've got the diagnosis for irritable bowel syndrome. The doctor, if you ask them what is the next steps, mostly, not always, but they should tell you some next steps. And for example, UK, United States, Canada, and a few other countries, Australia, then the next steps is to seek out and speak with a registered dietitian. Now, if you're listening to this and you're from the UK, that is difficult. And having spoken to like a handful of clients this year already that have tried that, the frustration that they had, I think because of post-COVID, NHS workers, for example, are overworked, underpaid, etc., that there is a really, really long waiting list. I think one guy I spoke to said it was 3 months. Maybe his IBS wasn't too bad, or the way he explained it to them that it wasn't. So if that's you and you're sick of, I'm not waiting 3 months, blooming hell, that's a lot of time, or even longer, then obviously there is the private option. We help men, professional men, entrepreneurs, middle managers, etc., with IBS, and we get their IBS triggers identified and it under control easily within 6 to 8 weeks. But obviously we don't work with everybody, and what we do might not be for you. But this podcast is about helping everybody. So taking those next steps that is going to keep you safe and get you the outcome quickly and safely as well. So it's about the speed. Speaking to that, to a dietitian.
Especially as a lot of people with IBS, it can take, I think our average is 6 years from suffering symptoms to getting a confirmed diagnosis. So if that's you and you've been, going backwards and forwards to your doctor, then as soon as you've finally got the diagnosis, you want to get it nipped as soon as possible. So seeing a dietitian, whether it's through the NHS, if you're in the UK, or if you go privately, and then you can find a private dietitian through the British Dietetic Association, and you can go through the freelance there.
Yeah, or reach out to us if you need any next steps. If you join, if you pop in the Facebook group, you can contact us in there in IBS and Men, or fire us out an email. Or we're all over the internet. If I was to summarise that and get it across in this podcast, is think differently. Look at what everybody else is doing as the classic entrepreneurial saying, and do things differently. Do things, properly the first time. And it is hard getting new habits and creating that lifestyle. It is going to, create a bit of work, but is that not worth it?
But what is more work is trying to work it out yourself and try and read all this stuff and watch this, do that, and try, your own random trial and error, not really know what you're doing, maybe getting a little bit of symptom relief haphazardly, by luck, but then you're like, oh yeah, what did I do? And then you don't know what you've done that helped relieve the symptoms in the first place. Whereas you could just go and invest in a dietitian and really focus, commit yourself to the plan that you come up with, the dietitian, and they've got all the knowledge and experience to save you from having to do all the graft and work it out yourself. And
remember it, you're invested in yourself, you're invested in your family, whether it's with us or anybody else that you touch base with out there to get the outcome that you're after. It's not, you're paying them this money or you're doing that for them. You're doing it for yourself.